Quantum healing. What is it? Delores Canon? Well, she's somebody who developed her own hypnosis technique, and I think she calls it quantum healing. There's a fuller term for it, but it basically involves taking you into a past life regression along the lines of the work Michael Newton's done, or Brian Weiss, if you've heard of them. And the emphasis is finding a thread that helps you find purpose in your life. And so I was very keen to do this because I'm a self-employed medical device entrepreneur, and I'm really keen to make sure I'm on the right track, if you like, and understand spirituality more deeply. Perhaps there's a way to produce medical devices that use spirit energy, for example. So I went with this kind of view in mind and had a quantum healing session, which is about 2 hours of deep hypnosis. Anyone who's ever had hypnosis will tell you it's not, although it may seem like a dulling of the senses when you're observing it, it's not like being drunk and not really knowing where you are or something. It's quite the opposite. It's very heightened awareness. So you're very conscious of what's going on, but your conscious mind is not getting in the way, I would say. And that's really the key to it. So you're able to recall suppressed information or hidden information, perhaps unconscious information. So my session started, and the facilitator said, "Where are you?" And I said, "I'm in this dark place." It's dark. And she didn't like that. She said, "Go somewhere light." I said, "I can't. It's where I am." So it all started a bit bumpy. And I said, "It's like a storm." I don't know if anyone's ever seen the film, I don't know which one, maybe it's Prometheus, not sure. One of the Alien series, when they're caught in a silicon storm. And there was this rushing of energy, it was so powerful. And it was like black, say silicon, like hewing out the landscape. It was just tearing through it. On one level it was hugely destructive, but on another level it was forming, you know, like terraforming or something, I don't know, but if that's the right term. But that stopped. She wound me forward in time, and slowly vegetation started to grow, and then eventually there were humans. So it was like a forest Amazon type of environment. And I was a little girl in a tribe, and we were playing, me and my friends, and they were teasing me, saying, you have to go. I remember we were playing with like little wooden toys that were carved into the shape of animals, like pigs and things, because that's what we related to, it's what we knew. And they were teasing me, and that made me really upset. I didn't like it. And I got very upset and started to cry. It's very emotional. And so I wound forward in time, and I was older now, a young woman, and I was being married to a different tribe, and it was deeply upsetting. I didn't want to leave my home. And this tribe were very different. They lived on, I'm going to say, I don't know the plains as such, but they worship birds. I'm going to say like exotic birds or birds of prey, and they wore feathers to celebrate that, the power of the birds. And it's a very strange thing that I went to a local museum a couple of years later, and they had a headdress of birds of paradise feathers made from a tribe, and it really struck a chord with me. But anyway, I married into this other tribe, and I wound forward in time again, and at this point I was happy there, and I'd fallen in love with the tribal leader, was the person I'd married, and we'd grown up, and I was realizing I was actually happy, and we'd had 3 sons, and I realized this was a good destiny, even though it had been a horrible thing to happen initially. But we wound forward further, and then there was a war, I think, and it's not like I could see really clearly what had happened. There was a knowing, and my sons had gone to war, my husband had died, and as an old woman I had been left to die, and so I died, and I passed over. And in the spirit world I met my mother, and she said, "I'm sorry I had to leave you." And I said, "It's okay, I understand, I'm a mother now." And then I rose above that, and I went to my soul group, and that was really interesting, and I'll go into that more in a fuller video about this if people are interested. But one of the things they said is, do you still think you can go on earth without suffering? And I knew that they were kind of poking fun and like trying to point out that the point of life is suffering to some degree. And what I saw is that all that pain I'd suffered through that life on earth, I had brought up with me, and it was like an onyx stone, like a black solidity to it. It's not negative, all positive, just very solid. And I brought that with me, and it melded with the others from my soul group, and we formed this great thing that was, it just had tremendous power to it. And then I saw it like an arc of light around it, like the Sagittarian sort of bow, and like an eclipse, when you see the curve of the light around, just creating a thin semicircular light, very, very thin, and with a line coming from it like an arrow. And it was like it was saying, this energy has been, you have all taken this energy and formed something from it which you can now direct. So that could be for any purpose. It was for us to use, and it all made sense. The suffering had genuine purpose and value, and at that point, that's when I went forward in time to meet Chiron, who, as I said in explaining the previous video, I met at the St. Michael's Mount in meditation, and he showed me the craft and ships, the like powers, generators and engines. As an engineer, I'm kind of drawn to that, and I flew along the hull of these things. They were vast, it was phenomenal, it was so exciting in a way. And then he said to me, he showed me a craft, and it was like very like, I don't know if they're in Star Trek, I don't know if it's the Klingon craft, which side it is, but there are crafts which are like a small fighter craft, and they have like the tips of the wings are like the feathers of a bird of prey, like an eagle spread out. And he said, you see how all things are connected. And at that moment I understood that by taking the path of being incarnated into a more of a forest dwelling tribe, but being sold into being married into it could have been sold, I don't know, married into a tribe that worshipped birds for their feathers and the special power that had to them, had an impact on genetic lineage. And perhaps that's subconsciously those kind of respect for things or awe for powers, it's carried through that line, that ultimately our offspring, our lineage, may display that in the form of how they create their spacecraft. Now, I know that is a seemingly perhaps a crazy story, but that's what my unconscious showed me when I went through the process of the Delores Canon quantum healing. And it was extremely helpful to me, along with other information. It just gave me a real sense of purpose, and most of all, a purpose and value to suffering, which is at times just does not seem to be worth it. So I hope there's something there for people.